Thank you, everybody here today, and thanks to everybody at home as well who's watching. I'm Chris Gallagher, your mayor, and I will be your host. We will start off with a typical mayor statement, which is just a bunch of stuff that's not so interesting, but I have to read it. Notice this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the agenda on the bulletin board at the municipal complex, applying a copy of the agenda in the office of the township clerk at the municipal complex, forwarding a copy of the agenda to the Barton County Times and Carrier Post, forwarding written notice to each person who has requested copies of the regular meeting schedule. All the above posting, filings, and mailings have taken place on the 21st day of March 2014. We're going to have a moment of silence followed by a flag salute. And this, keep in mind the folks that perished in one slide and also the folks that perished in the Malaysian Flight 37. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first part of our agenda is the informal discussion, which we call the workshop. Scott, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the agenda, we have the budget workshop listed first and the holiday decorations for Main Street listed second. And considering the potential impact that the decorations have on the budget, I thought council has no issue. We would just switch those.
Sure.
Neil Johnson from the Appearance Committee is here to participate in that discussion. I think Harry Coons has got a few things to say on behalf of the MBA, but as Greg is the liaison to the Appearance Committee, Greg, I will pass the baton over to you to get the ball rolling on this topic.
Thank you. Glad Neil is here. We've actually met as an Appearance Committee and talked about this once again. We've actually been talking about it since we were charged by council, and I was on the Appearance Committee at that time in 2002 to actually go over and finish.
Move fast.
Finish the appearance decorations. I believe the Appearance Committee worked very hard and had some questions from council and has come up with a very good proposal. Some of the things, actually, it's worth mentioning that are considering about this is just having a decoration on your house or your business may be an easy thing, but decoration on a public, rather a utility-owned pole is quite something else. Some of the things that we went through actually with PSE&G is they wouldn't want to have any circle of a decoration like a wreath or anything like that because it would be a sale over time. And over the time we've reviewed this. There were many other things we went through in trying to find this when I was involved in the committee from 2002 to 2007. Subsequent to that, actually the councils did look at and did approve, and actually half of the fixtures were, the decorations were approved. And Neil Johnson can now tell you the rest of the story of what we propose now. Thank you for coming, Neil.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mayor, and members of council giving me the opportunity to represent the Appearance Committee and hopefully bring the conclusion to the decorations on Main Street. As Greg pointed out, Appearance Committee was charged to make recommendations back in 2002 by Town Council for some holiday decorations on Main Street. That was after the Main Street improvements had been done and we had new poles, the smaller, lower light poles, which we have quite a few of them. I think there are about 62 of them in this section of Main Street. After many years of going through many types of decorations, we finally got an approval for the swag, which we now have some of them. We have 31 of them on Main Street for that by PSE&G. The proposal that we have before Town Council is to have the second half, the additional 31 of those decorations purchased and installed by the same supplier. And may I note that that supplier has held his price for 7 years on this. Noting that we had the opportunity to look at this over the last couple of years, it came before the appearance committee. Several of our members walked up and down the street in the evening and looked and brought it to the committee at our last meeting, and we discussed the fact that having all 62 poles with that decoration may be a bit overload. So we came up with a proposal to decrease the number down to about 40 or 41. We suggest purchasing 10 additional decorations for a cost not to exceed of $6,000, and space them throughout the area of Main Street so that it gives a balance. So not every pole will have one. There are also some poles that Public Works has noted, because of their proximity to the curb line, they can't have the swag which sits perpendicular to the street. It would overhang the curb line, and we're not doing that. So we would not put it on those poles. But it would be something that a member of the committee would be there and get the recommendations for what poles could have the decorations on them. So we've amended our request of town council to the original amount was $17,050 down to not to exceed $6,000 for a purchase of additional 10.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we kind of like discuss that, or is that some,
Well,
you would like some direction, to
Yeah.
whether or not we put that in?
But wasn't the other request that we wanted to do is to find out about the Linola area?
I believe the other requests were really addressed in the email that was sent from Sonia Town, the chair of the committee, and especially in regard to specifically the town hall decorations and the decorations that are in Linola, which the Linola decorations are a maintenance kind of thing, and the town hall decorations certainly are new, and we don't even have the poles to see what the poles are like, to see what that they are. This was the finishing of this long project, and the appearance committees, and I believe Sonia Notes will say, and do say, that the appearance committee wants to finish this project. Did I speak correct?
Yes, we want to get this one done. If town council wants to give the charge to the appearance committee for looking at decorations, be it refurbishing or purchasing new or something for Linola or for the town hall once it's finished, that we'd be glad to do that.
Right.
Well, and what we've discussed in prior meetings is that Public Works, once they're done for good plowing snow for the season, I think there's one more.
No, wait your time.
But we're going to have the Linola lights looked at to see what the problems are. My concern that I voiced earlier at another meeting was that I don't know how easy it would be to get replacement parts for these lights. If it's a significant problem with the Linola lights in terms of things that aren't working, I don't know that we're going to be able to go find replacement parts, in which case we may have to look at a full overhaul at some point of Camden Avenue as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Tom, you had indicated that there was a concern about some of the poles and the clearance. Do you feel that what Mr. Johnson just discussed addresses that, or is it still a concern?
Yeah, it sounds like they addressed it. There were 14 of the 61 poles that did have issues. They've been identified by Mr. Ewers, and it sounds like they've taken that into account.
Yeah, we have the list of those poles.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Another consideration for council, if council does want to direct the appearance committee to look into decorations for the Linola side and the town hall, is they can certainly do that legwork right now, and then but rather than put the money into the budget at this time, we can wait till the end of the year when you gotta have excesses and deficits, and we do the transfers and all that.
Right.
But if there's excess monies, then we could, at the last 2 months of the year, we could transfer and purchase it then. But at least you would have an idea of something to approve before then, and then you could go ahead and purchase it
I
that
think
way.
our experience of vetting the types of decorations that many people will like on those two locations may take a little time anyway.
Well,
But as far as, we may not have the budget for it at this time, because maybe I'll solve it.
I'm fine with tasking the appearance committee with looking into what are the issues of vetting for all lights, and what is the and what do they recommend for the town hall.
Well, according to Mr. Reagan, the building itself is the decoration, so.
Oh, is that right? Well, my concern Mary don't play Santa. Yeah. So without committing any money.
I don't know if that's a compliment or,
Yeah.
or an insult
What
there.
are council's thought on that? As far as, all tasking the committees?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely want, I mean,
Yeah.
that's actually where I thought we were going to kind of put our emphasis on. I understand that they want to have more for Main Street, but we do have Main Street done, I think, enough. I feel like I'm the Grinch right now, but,
Well, before we go a little bit further, Harry, could you come to the microphone? Because we did reach out to the MBA about potentially helping the township with these lights, and I don't think Harry has an answer, but he has an update.
The MBA will have the next board meeting a week from Wednesday, so I'm speaking strictly for myself tonight. My opinion, those decorations downtown look like somebody picked up a stick and stuck them between two decorations. They're up there. I suggest that they at least paint that plastic green so that when you look at them, it all looks nice and green and it's lighted at night. Nobody paid any attention, so that's the way it goes. That's my opinion. It's not nice.
and hence the differences of opinion.
I just want to let you know it wasn't the MBA's opinion.
So Harry, before you sit down, so the MBA is gonna consider paying for the
It's
additional.
still an open item, and I'll bring it up again next Wednesday.
All right, well,
And, maybe we get a motion out.
In respect to that, I have some information as well. I spoke with Don Powell, who's the vice chair of the MBA, and asked him, in fact, to bring it up at a meeting. And he got back to me and said that the MBA is not interested in helping us at this point with this. If Harry wants to bring it up again, that's wonderful, but that was what Don Powell told me.
So,
Any idea how much you're looking for?
fix
I
that.
don't
6,000.
Not the whole amount.
6,000, well,
That's the whole amount.
are we
And if
borrowing?
you'd like to give us
That
more,
will
we'll take that.
happen. I tell you
Are we
that.
negotiating? 12?
They're poor right now.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I guess I could put it to you this way, Harry. If I know the MBA represents businesses throughout the town, and certainly though Main Street is a huge component of that. If lights on Main Street are that important to the businesses, I would think that some help, some investment would be appropriate.
I get the impression that the majority of the people on the board, and it's my opinion again, I think they like the decorations, but they agree with me that it's a stick with decorations stuck on the end, and that stick should be painted green or taken down. My opinion.
Tom, is there any grant money left over for Main Street, or ENOS, or anything, for any improvements that?
None that come to mind, but I'm sure there are.
Our new CFO, Harry.
I was really asking.
I'm trying to be diplomatic.
I was really asking Tom, but,
I agree with him.
if you could find.
He said it as well as I can say it.
Yeah. Okay, all right, then I think we'll still wait, even though we have conflicting reports on where this might go. I think I would like to hold my decision on this until we hear back from you. So
Okay.
it's all on you, Harry.
Okay,
Okay?
we'll get them.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have just a summary of my notes.
Oh, good.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, there's 3 other items in the budget workshop I would like to cover. Fortunately, I don't know that any of them are that quick, but we'll
It's all right.
they're all important, so we need to make sure we give them their due attention. The one direction I would like to have from council tonight, and I think Tom would agree with me, is we mentioned this at the last budget workshop, to start working towards a budget introduction. There's not much to add to tonight's conversation in terms of our operating budget, although we are going to be discussing healthcare in a moment. The other thing that I was going to discuss tonight was preliminary discussion for the 2014 capital budget. And Mr. Mayor, you and I had a conversation about this earlier today, and I want to make sure that everyone understands. When we discuss the capital budget within the context of the 2014 budget, we need to provide Tom with a number to put into the budget for the down payment for any bonds that council may want to pass this year for capital projects. There's still some of the projects I'm working with the directors on, they're working with professionals, and there's still some details that need to be hashed out. So tonight's list is a preliminary list I wanted to give the council, to give council an idea of where my head's at and where the directors' heads are at in terms of what they're looking for this year. But what we need to soon get to is a decision on a down payment. And once I fine-tune this, provide it to council, Tom will also provide with that the details in terms of how much of a down payment we need and what we need to put in the 2014 operating budget. But I'm going to go over real quick, or not real quick, but I'm going to go over what the directors have requested that I would like to, that I'm endorsing, I guess you could say. And I'll start with the police department. Mr. Johnson, Director Johnson, had 3 items that he was hoping to have funded this year. The 3 I'm about to give you are in order of importance from first to last. They are looking for 5 new Tahoes at a total cost of $206,000. They've been replacing vehicles over the last couple of years. The Tahoes this winter especially proved extremely valuable getting through the inclement weather. The second thing...
Sorry, Scott, how much was that?
206. The next thing they're looking for is in-video car system. In-car video system. So they have a system now that's in the cars. It's about 8 years old. They were the first digital cameras that became available. Now there's new technology, both in hardware and software, that the police department would like to get and put into the cars. So it's 15 high-def front cameras, 15 rear cameras, 15 wireless mics, interrogation camera, evidence software, server, and a 5-year warranty. The total approximate cost is $112,000. And of course, if council, like I said, this is preliminary. If council wants any more details, obviously we can have the directors answer these either in writing or in person. The final thing from the police department is laser mapping. When there is a serious motor vehicle accident, they create a scale diagram, and it depicts how, what happened at the accident scene. And there is new technology in the form of this laser mapping that's now available. And it consists of something called LiDAR, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But LiDAR uses technology to make high-resolution maps. It is a remote sensing technology, measures distance by illuminating a target with a laser and analyzing the reflected light. Harry believes that this would be a very valuable tool for the investigation of major accidents, and the cost to this is approximately $10,000. Next, I want to talk about issues, potential issues, items in the capital budget pertaining to the police, court, and library, and I may have, Rick, actually, if you can come to the microphone because you're going to participate in this conversation. As council remembers, Rick is working with myself, Director Johnson, Helena Robinson from the court, and a few other people coming in and out as we need them. And we tasked ourselves with basically two different items that, when we first began, either may or may not have been the same thing. And one is what to do long-term with the police and court. The second was what to do with the existing library. And we do not have an answer yet. We're probably another couple months away. The problem is with Rick and I being the principal people, we're more involved with getting us into town hall. We haven't really been able to focus as hard on this as we would like. We are looking at things in terms of what to do with the police and court. We're getting a lot of statistical information from the police department, looking at hotspots on a map, counties helping us map this all out, because we're looking at response times and traffic patterns and everything else, because we want to make sure the police are as efficient and responsive as possible. We're also looking at costs in terms of renovating a building, building a building, things like that. We have looked pretty much at every commercial building that's been on the market in the last 8 months. Plus, we've looked at the existing library. And although, like I said earlier, no decision's been made, we're not prepared to present any report to council yet. I did want to, since we have Rick and Rob here, they have looked, the existing library building has been looked at by these gentlemen as professionals going back to the old kitchen plan.
Yes.
And I guess I want to get it out there, just that the notion that repurposing that particular building is simple and inexpensive. Repurposing a building, in most cases an office building, may be a less expensive way to go than building. But Rick, if you could just speak a little bit about the problems with repurposing that specific building.
That specific building has a series of long-term deficiencies because of its age and its mechanical system being so old, would really need to be redone. Secondly, the roof is all tiles with a concrete substrate. If you walk on that roof right now, you'll destroy more tiles than you'll ever fix, and that whole roof would need to be replaced. The building, if it was repurposed for any other use, would need additional windows. It doesn't have a lot of light coming in from the outside for an office or other reasons. It has a mezzanine that's open to the above. So either you're going to leave it alone and have all your heat go up in the mezzanine, or you're going to close it off. Either way, you're going to be costing yourself money. The plan that was done by Kitchen for a performing arts center showed that building at a $5.4 million budget for that repurposing for a performing arts center. We've done an estimate of new systems that would be needed for mezzanine closure, roof demolition, new roof, new mechanical, new electrical, plumbing, perimeter finishes, windows, doors, so we were recommending dormers and so forth, and a new elevator because that elevator doesn't meet ADA, so it's not the right size. So all of those things would be $2,795,000 without any soft costs. You add soft costs and contingencies, you're close to $3.5 million. So that is a lot of money, and that doesn't count a fit out of the whatever it would be repurposing. In other words, if there were offices inside, which is a question, our report will identify what the impact would be if that building were reused by the police for an office or for retail use, its impact on the site and so forth, which is another question. But this is an expensive proposition from the beginning, and therefore we need to be very careful about what we choose, and that will be part of a study that we'll share.
I have 2 questions about that. First off, I seem to remember the prior council, which Stacy and I were on, when we approved the current plan, I think it called for demolishing, and I think that was discussed, I don't know if it was formally discussed, but I think it was discussed that this plan that we approved was contingent on tearing the library down. Is that correct? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, the original concept was to have the library torn down as part of the contract with the new building.
Right.
The concern was whether or not we were going to make our budget and whether or not we were going to have that as a whole extra thing. And not only that, the contractor would have to give you a price in 2013 for taking it down in September of 2014. So we felt that the pricing would be inflated, and we didn't want to hurt the pricing we got on the main building by adding that component in. So it was taken out at the last minute.
Right. Yeah, when in the summer of 2012, actually, I think it was, when we value engineered some components out of the building. That was the biggest, I think, reduction we made. And like Rick said, I mean, it was the idea of having them, the contractors, give us a number 17 months out,
Right.
when we could, just do it on our own afterwards.
Right. Wasn't there also a mold issue?
Time, Mr. Pete Barr was involved in trying to, first of all, all of the fresh air of that building came in over that scummy pond that was down at the base of the lower elevation. And the big intake room had not been cleaned in a long, long time. I don't want to guess 15 years, but a long time. And all of that had to be cleaned out, and it was cleaned out, and as they put carbon filters in the library and put carbon filters on books that were segregated for cleaning, and that has really improved the aroma of the library a lot. So there's also been roof leaks in that building for some long time, and some of them had not been repaired for over 5 years.
What would be your guess the mold remediation would cost?
Well,
Which I know from my industry, it's quite pricey.
it's very pricey. We're not saying that there's mold in there now. We're saying that the air was just impacted by the infiltration system. We're not suggesting that the people using the airport or the air in there are in fact being infected with mold.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
isn't it true that the air conditioner system that has been there since the town hall fire system, actually the old town hall system was moved over there, has been much better in the as well for the building? That air conditioner has been working well for it, and that previously the air conditioning was up and down a great deal, which is also a cause of mold. Is that not true?
Absolutely true.
Thank you.
The last 3 years have been better.
And wouldn't it be also true to say that if we were to use that building, it would have quite an impact on the traffic around town, where the traffic is already an issue?
I would say that is true, and I think we can document that, but that's not the question I've been asked this evening.
But it is, Greg, something that the group has considered, because, when the shift change comes in, anybody that's trying to get through Main Street around afternoon rush hour, from one side of town to the other, realizes how difficult it can be. Fortunately, most of the commercial buildings we're looking at as potential renovations are either near the current location of the police department or on the other side of Route 38, just east of the mall. So where your ingress and egress is a lot easier for the police vehicles.
Could I just address a couple of things here while Mr. Reagan is there? Several times people have talked to me recently about the fact that the entire site was proposed by Kitchens to answer all of the things we've discussed tonight. For instance, they answer the police, answer the court, answer the building, the town hall, the library, all of those things. And that was about, if I remember correctly, 15.5. We're building a town hall for $15,500,000. We're building a town hall now for $11 million. You spoke of $3.5 million for renovations, but if I'm correct, those renovations just bring that to code. They wouldn't adapt it to any of those.
Correct.
So a reality view of any figure you would have for going downstream, where you're looking at any of these other sites, or the sites might be valuable in discussion for people to understand. If you were to build a police station, is it $2 million, $5 million, $3 million off-site?
The police program, let me back up and answer the question the way you asked it.
Sure.
The question was first about on-site. The answer is you couldn't fit all those uses on-site today in any reasonable way. The police have a plethora of vehicles and signs and barriers that they all need storage for and they need parking for. To add those kind of components to the town hall would really jump it up.
So the 15.5 million plan was probably not a thing we would be able to follow through anyway. That's okay.
And secondly, we have two scenarios that we're going to present. One is rehabbing a building, and secondly is building a new building that would incorporate the court and staff. And even some of these other alternatives that we've looked at for existing buildings, either they are too small, don't have enough room to expand, or they're too large, they're 55,000 square feet, or a developer wants us to take the lower level and have someone else on top of the police. Can't do that. Just not from security standpoint.
So I'm hearing you say your thought now is to build the police station, take the old library building down and build the police station on site?
No.
Our position, you're preempting a study that we're going to have time to explain to our council. And I don't want to preempt it. I'm happy to go through it if you'd like. But,
Well, it's a budget workshop, so we should probably get back on.
okay.
And the reason I brought this all up was to say to council that preliminarily I was going to put $300,000 for the demolition of the existing library building. The decision hasn't been made, obviously, and council wouldn't have to bond that until the decision was made, and council's received the report and has agreed that that's the route to go. But once again, in terms of pairing the budget and adopting a budget that has enough money for down payment, just to have that out there. Also, with the library, police, and court, we talked about roughly $60,000 potentially for professional planning, the early beginning planning stages of whatever, whether it's rehabbing, building.
There's 15,000 for the professional, and 60,000 will do the work, and we need to do it all this year.
Right.
Because we have to take the police staff from their current location at 2 Executive Drive and move them into what has been a storage area.
You mean the court staff?
The court staff, excuse me. Put them where the police are now, in the space that currently has been used for storage. That is going to be moved out of there and either microfilmed or put into the new building. So it's a matter of putting in a new entrance area, an ATM machine, a bulletproof glass area for the patrons to pay their fines, to come to the police building and interact with the court staff.
And just so council in the audience is clear, what Rick is referring to is when we move out of 2 Executive Drive, the 2 court staff, for obvious safety reasons, cannot remain in that building by themselves. We plan on moving them. Right now, at the existing police building, there is a large room we call the vault, keeps all of our records. There is space in the new building to keep those records. So until the permanent location for the police and courts determined and taken care of, the court office, the administrative office of the court will be with the police department, which, I mean, in terms of a functionality, it should be.
So one of the things that Scott, you and I discussed, and I just want to make it clear, I had suggested maybe using the existing library that we have now as a temporary office for our court. But from what I'm understanding, what you said is that we really can't have them by themselves because of safety issues?
Well, that's part of it, and I think in terms of safety issues and getting that building ready, from what Rick was saying, it would be extremely expensive.
This is more expensive than...
It's also, if they're the only people in the building, you're paying $68,000 a year to heat and cool the building for 3 people. Wouldn't make sense.
Where are they now? They're now in the town hall now?
There are 2 executives.
There are 2 of them.
And they'd be adjacent to the police, which makes perfect sense.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Public Works. Mr. Ewers is asking for $1 million for this year's road program. In terms of equipment and vehicles, $250,000 for a new sweeper and $185,000 for a new front-end loader. $60,000 for roof replacement and $300,000 to deal with various drainage issues around town.
Are they in order of importance?
They are not. They are all equally
Equally
important.
important?
Yes.
You said $1 million for road replacement, $250,000 for sweeper, and after that I lost.
I'm sorry, $185,000 for a new front end loader, $60,000 for roof replacement at their facility, and $300,000 to fix drainage issues around town. Moving on to recreation, what I've done is there's various projects that I will explain to council what all those projects are, but if council were to approve this, we would bundle it into one bond, which would be the various improvements at Wesley Bishop North and Jeff Young. And Mr. Mayor, as you and I have discussed, a lot of, these projects are also contingent on private financing from the groups, and that would all have to be worked out before I would present a bond for council to consider, to have something in writing from these groups. There are a hockey rink at Jeff Young, otherwise referred to as Lanola Hockey Rink.
What was that, would that be?
That would just be some repairs.
That would be a repair.
Right. It wouldn't be a complete refurbishment. There are 2 hockey rinks at Wesley Bishop North. One, and will be due in a couple of years for a full refurbishment. So we're not going to look at doing anything with that rink this year, but rink number 2, some more repairs. We have been discussing with Misha, who's the group that has the youth hockey organization, about helping to fund the Wesley Bishop North Hockey Rink project. The Jeff Young is more of a community facility, not one that any organization uses. We've also talked about extending the grass field next to the new turf field for lacrosse. It's a request actually that they've made. And also further, south of that, the softball program is looking to fund a new softball field. Hockey, lacrosse, and softball have all expressed interest in funding these or helping fund these. So before council would have to consider whether or not to bond them, we would work through any issues we have with the private organizations and their ability and commitment to fund. But the total for all of those projects would be about $700,000. I'm going to ask for $50,000 for various improvements to the rec center. Although Rick did a great job in improving that building, there's still some things. It is a very, very, very old building, and there's still some things that do need some work. So just a small amount of money to help prove that up. Again, that's $50,000. So the total out of the general fund would be $3,233,000 if everything that I listed was approved. Moving on to the utility budget, which would be paid out of the utility fund.
Excuse me, Scott, real quick there. For that total bond amount, what do you need for the down payment?
For a $3.2 million bond? $165,000.
We only have 100 in proposed budget.
Okay, right, so we'd have to bump that up. All right, so the proposed capital projects for 2014 from Mr. Butler. There's various upgrades to some 4-inch water mains around town. One on Prospect from High Street to Church Street and a small portion of Washington at an estimated cost of $200,000. An upgrade to the water main on Oak from Chestnut to Irving Street at an estimated cost of $868,000. And that's 3,472 feet long with a 12-inch main. Upgrade of the 4-inch water main on West 3rd from Collins to North Church. It's 2,523 feet at an estimated cost of $631,000. Mr. Butler is also looking for $50,000 for a preliminary study to demolish the sludge drying beds at the wastewater treatment plant. Long-term, this may require some soil remediation, but once again, he's looking for $50,000. He's looking for $100,000 to clean and remove solids from the wastewater treatment plant secondary digester. And finally, two more things. An upgrade of the alarm system for the township's 13 sewer pump stations using the new SCADA system, which we funded last year. That estimated cost is $60,000. And then finally, $80,000 for a new backhoe, for a total of $1,989,000, which, as I mentioned, would be funded out of the utility fund.
How much is the backhoe?
Backhoe, they estimate, would be $80,000. So, like I said, that's a preliminary list of capital projects for 2014. We're going to fine tune that.
What was our capital budget last year? You guys remember?
I have the top of my head
You
now.
can get it for me, that's fine. All right.
In the utility budget, the funding impact to the taxpayer this year?
There is none.
Right.
It's paid for out of the water and sewer rates.
Okay.
So the last thing to discuss in the frame of budget workshop is at the last meeting, council directed Tom and I to have an analysis done between our current plans and our current healthcare plans, that is, and plans provided by the State Health Benefits Program. With us tonight are representatives from Brown & Brown. Tom has done an analysis. One thing I do before we begin discussing this, because we are in contract negotiations with both the CWA and the FOP, and obviously healthcare is a huge component of those negotiations. So we do have to be careful in terms of where the discussion goes, especially with the CWA, where there's a specific target where the CWA is working with the township to save money on healthcare plans. So with that said, Tom, I will hand it over to you to lead this discussion.
All right, we have three members here, actually, if you guys want to come up just in case, from Brown & Brown. They're all from our local office here off of Main Street. And I'll let Jack make the introductions. Jack McDermott.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Jack McDermott. I'm the Senior Vice President of Brown & Brown, located 711 East Main Street. Today I have with me Pete Abertanto, also a Senior Vice President, and Debbie Fabrica, who's your accountant consultant. She handles your day-to-day with your staff.
Thanks, Jack. All right, when council put us on this project, I reached out to Jack and to Debbie, and I'm sure that Pete's helped as well. On this project. It is an apples to oranges type comparison, because obviously when you get plan designs, they differ. In our contracts, any changes, they have to be substantially the same as existing. That includes network plan, as well as the plan design, co-pays, deductibles, any out-of-pocket expense. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but they have to be substantially the same. So on its face, our existing plans, the state health benefit, we would have to negotiate that with the groups because it is not substantially the same. We are in negotiations, as Mr. Carew pointed out, with the CWA and the FOP right now. We have brought this up with the CWA. They're at this time not interested with the state health benefit plan. And actually, the plans that they plan on going into are much greater savings than the state health benefit plan. So, the analysis shows that we have 112 employees for the medical and 110 for the prescription that I included in this. We do have some that are 100% paid, so I did not include them in this analysis. This does not take into consideration any of the co-pays or the premium sharing. This is just raw rates. And what the rates show is that the state health benefit plan is better priced for our PPO. Our plan for our HMO is better priced than their HMO, and our prescription plans are better priced than their prescription plans. The overall, it looks like it would be, if the state health benefit plan, if you netted everything out, and again, this is the raw data, not the net of premium sharing, is roughly $7,000 per month. That if we actually went to the state health benefit plans, that it would save. I would estimate, based upon sharing and stuff like that, it's probably about $60,000 to $65,000 a year, which is roughly 2.5% of the overall premiums that we pay, and that would, again, as renewals, that could happen in one renewal, it could go the other way. There's sometimes it goes back and forth as renewals go, but again, our existing plans that would have to be negotiated and changed. I would point out that the PPO plan, the HMO is the base plan, which is cheaper with the state health benefit plan, so any new employee has to take that. If they do want to take the PPO plan, they have to pay 100% of the difference on top of their Chapter 78 contributions. But one of the issues that's also difficult in matching this up is we do have some very small group, 4 employees. 3 are current, one's a retiree, but we're in a traditional plan. We phase that out for the most. The state health benefit plan does not have a traditional plan, so that savings is kind of skewed because I put them into the HMO plan. They probably could grieve that, I'm not sure, and I'll let, but this is what the data shows, and I'll give a handout to the council on that, but I'll turn it over to...
Well, before you do turn over to Jack real quick, Tom, and Tony, the MOA with CWA is agreed to sign open contract. I can discuss a certain condition of that MOA in public.
Well, correctly, if I'm thinking on the same wavelength here, then I think we can go into this area if we're on the same wave here, is that we can actually negotiate, and we are negotiating, cheaper plans right now with the group that would even, minimize this number and bring it closer, if that's where you're going with it.
Well, no, what I was going to say, if working together, the township and the CWA do not reach a certain number in savings, there's a trigger where everyone, like you said, has to go to the HMO or pay the difference. So I'm not sure how germane then the discussion of comparing the state PPO versus our PPO, at least for the CWI. I know with the FOP, there's a lot of members that have that.
And they can actually meet, I think they can comfortably meet the numbers that we put in place, the 150,000 as savings. Again, we're getting to negotiations, I don't want to really get into that, but we're working on a position to them, and again, I don't want to get into that, but regardless, whatever plan they go into, I think Mr. Bruce saying, is cheaper than the state health benefit plan. It's the police side is the more expensive side that we'll have to work on in negotiations.
Just a couple other points that Tom had mentioned. The state health benefits plan is a boilerplate plan, whereas what you're in right now with a privatized carrier, you can make changes and you can negotiate those changes. You can dictate to us, we want to change a copay on the emergency room, we want to do this. So the flexibility that you have right now at this sensitive time with negotiations, you have that flexibility with the privatized carrier, where the state is boilerplate. You take what they give you, that's it. There's no negotiations. Tom had also mentioned the traditional plan. You currently have a traditional plan, which is a very antiquated plan. If that was to be negotiated out and put into the current PPO or an HMO that's currently in place, that savings for the state would be diminished. And then lastly, or 2 other points, you currently have some what's called self-pay. You have some members under your group policy that pay 100% of the cost, and that's allowed in the current program that you're in. Within the state health benefits plan, that would no longer be allowed, and those members that you currently have self-pay would be pushed out and have to go find their coverage on their own. And then lastly, the renewal process. Renewals for the program that you're in have historically been single digit. With the state health benefits plan, they've been double digit. So as we're looking at the apples and oranges, the PPOs, the HMOs, one thing that we need to keep in mind is that as we negotiate and move down the spectrum, you're in a product right now where the state is double-digit rate increases. And so therefore, the amount of money that you're currently saving at this point in time, if I'm standing here next year, you could be paying more without the flexibility of the product that you're in. Any questions?
Do you feel comfortable that you spoke informally when I first walked in, you said that every year you put our benefits out to bid, and they're currently out to bid. So do you feel comfortable with the rate that we're paying now is the most competitive price? I know I'm hearing that there's going to be possible savings, but do you feel that what we're paying now is the most competitive price? I mean, we have, this is always something every year we look at in the budget. I'm glad you guys came in and appreciate it, because maybe it'll help, finally put the rest, this issue, I was saying outside, we continually struggle with this year in and year out. Well, what can we save for health benefits? Well, nothing to be saved. Well, and we don't really see a comparison, like anybody can do with their own health benefits. You can go on Horizon's website or AmeriHealth's website, and you can see all the different plans, and you can pick one. We're never quite sure what the plan costs are for our employees as far as whether there's any savings to be had. That's the main thing,
Yeah, one of the things that, as our job as your broker, we have to do a few things. We have to make sure that you're in the most competitive environment. By that I mean the premiums. We also have to look at the benefit design. We have to make sure that it's equal to or better than what you currently have.
Right.
We can't bring in a product, a high deductible health plan, which we did try several years ago, and say this is what we're going to offer to all the employees because it's not equal to or greater than. And then the third thing that we have to do during this marketing process is we have to make sure that the network is substantially equal. There's been a PERC ruling in Union, New Jersey that says it must be substantially equal. So as an example, we can't go to HealthNet, who has 5 doctors in Camden County and 1 in Burlington, and say, we're going to recommend HealthNet as a replacement to the current AmeriHealth product. You'd have a grievance. So we do that every single year. The last year when we did it, we do it for your medical, your dental, and your prescription drug coverage. And our marketing process resulted in us making a recommendation from you changing from a Bollinger prescription drug to the Benecard prescription drug. And that recommendation was made upon the factors I just discussed. We had an equal to or better than letter. It was a savings to the township. We made that recommendation to change, and the change was made. We're doing that as we speak right now.
Have you ever made, jump in? Sure.
Also to add, Mr. Mayor, most of the changes occur, again, in the public sector, we're dealing with unions equal to or better, substantially the same language. So you can't just get your off-the-shelf product and sell that way you can in the private sector. That said, we're, in the public sector, changes are made at the negotiating table. Co-pays, deductibles, negotiating those levels is how you save, and that's actually how we're saving. This year is actually the appropriation for the health benefit premium or for the budget is less money than it was the previous year. And a lot of that is the negotiations that we're dealing with the public works. We negotiate different plan designs, different copay structures, et cetera. We are also offering, we worked with Brown & Brown with this last year, but when we went out, we couldn't bring it to the employees. This is the perfect time now. We're working with the groups to offer several other plan options that are cheaper plan options. For PPO, there's several different deductible copays and cost share for hospitalization stuff. There's also EPOs. And then we have, different HMO selects and stuff like that we're working on right now that should benefit. The old days, as Mr. McDermott said, traditional funds were antiquated, traditional plans were antiquated plans. And we've gotten rid of most of them, but every time you negotiate, it's always going forward, so there's still some employees that hold on to those. The biggest help that has occurred since 2010 and 11 is the contributions, and particularly Chapter 78 in 2011, where now employees will contribute up to 35% of the premium. So now they're interested, whereas before we paid 100%, they didn't want to hear about these other plans. Now they do, because now they pay 35% of it.
Over the course of the years, have you ever changed, when you shop out our health benefits, that component, have you ever switched carriers because you got, there were better rates, better premiums?
Yes, we did that last year with the prescription drug.
Well, other than the prescription drug, have you ever done it with the health insurance part of it?
There was 1 year where Oxford Health Plan came in, and we had done an analysis on the Oxford Health Plan, and we felt that it was not substantially equal. We also felt that the network was not substantially equal. We made a decision to recommend to town council that they do not go with that savings. We were replaced by another broker. A change was made. 10 months after that, we were rehired as broker because of the situation. The 10 points that I had laid out, we hit 8 of them as far as grievances were concerned. So when we do the marketing analysis, we don't just look at the premiums. That's the major component.
Right.
But then on the back end, there's a lot of information that we need to provide to you so that we don't get hit with grievances, which then obviously cost money.
No, I understand that there are certain items or features negotiating the contracts that you have to, each plan has to have in order to not have a grievance filed. It just seems to me that, as long as it's shopped around every year, we hear a lot about, people saying, well, just, like I said, going back to my first day on council, that we can save money with health benefits, and, I'm sure salesmen will say whatever they can to get in the door, it's nice to know that it's being shopped. I would like to see the options, as I was saying to you, and what the options are myself. Does council have any other questions or comments?
I have a comment that I remember many lively council meetings during the time that we changed to Oxford and then we came back. It was many lively council meetings. I think that would not be wise to do that again.
Our meetings are lively now. Bill?
Yeah, I would like to see the analysis as well, just as you said, in black and white, so that'd be great.
I agree.
All right, perfect.
And our marketing should be done within about a month for the 7/1 effective date. And we'd be more than happy to come back in and share with you the entire analysis and go through step by step. It's quite a thick analysis. If we could maybe have 40 minutes to go through it, just for your edification, to see how exactly we did it.
Sure.
We'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And just real quick, before we leave this topic altogether, because there's one other thing I want to point out to council, in terms of sort of a benefit to the township as we go forward with these negotiations. Not only do we have Chapter 78, as Tom mentioned, which is all the employees that are members of bargaining units this year will begin to contribute through a 4-year phase out. So in 4 years, the contributions will be very substantial. At the same time, if you remember, and I think it might have been last meeting or the meeting before that, council passed a resolution urging the extension of the 2% interest to arbitration cap.
Yes, that's right.
Because as we negotiate the contracts, that right now, as that stands, that 2% is on the total value of the contract, which is just another motivating factor for the bargaining units to work with Tom and me and with Brown & Brown to design plans that are going to be less expensive.
That's great. Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out.
I wondered, Scott, is there any reference for best practices? I think it was that you got through your professional organization regarding going to the state or not going to the state?
I did. I sent, as we've talked about, I think in prior meetings, my professional association, the New Jersey Municipal Management Association, has a email chain, and I did reach out to my colleagues asking them, if anybody had information on the state health benefits plan, good, bad, or indifferent. I did receive a lot of negative feedback in terms of the administration of the state health benefits plan. In other words, lots of administrative headaches in terms of dealing with the professionals up there. I mean, it's a huge organization. Each town's a small cog. One of the things, and Tom and I have discussed it with council before, is we're very fortunate that there are offices right here in town, and whether it's Tom or myself or Human Resources, we don't deal with nearly as many issues as other towns may be dealing with personnel, health care related issues. Quite frankly, we don't want to because of HIPAA orders. They go right to the Brown and Brown offices, which is it's a convenience. All things, everything else being the same, it's certainly something to consider.
So it would seem that dealing with Brown and Brown would cut down your management time and be more cost effective from your perspective.
And that's why I don't see employees coming to the meetings as well, just because, like I did before when we had the Oxford before. But just to add on to what Scott's saying is, there are times, it's very rare now, but I'll get a phone call from an employee. Most of them actually, Debbie gets most of those calls, or visits, when either they have a billing issue and they'll go right to our office and resolve it, or literally they'll be at an office trying to get an MRI or an X-ray or whatever, and trying to say something's not covered, not picked up, and they'll take care of it right there. From my understanding of talking to people in state health benefit plans, you'll be lucky. Like, first of all, there's no one to talk to when you call a number, and then you're not going to get a call that day, So whereas they can resolve it literally right there when the person's at the office, you're not going to get that with state health benefit.
Thank you, Scott.
And that's part of it too. That's a huge component as well. Okay, thank you.
All right, so unless council has any questions, I think we can close up this part of the meeting. I just one more time, if council has any direction, if the operating budget that we discussed, and there's some minor changes, obviously, Tom said earlier, we'd have to add another $65,000 to cover the down payment, but there's some other small things that we discussed. There was a savings in the pension that Tom alerted council to this past week, but pretty much we're there. So if council's okay to prepare the introductions, we can start getting moving on that.
I was just concerned, and actually did visit with Tom this week, about if we've looked at all the things that we could look at to build our infrastructure and perspective that we have, the surplus that we have now, and if we took some money, whatever it was, to increase our IT presence. I see this was done with Harry Johnson Police, but not to get real specific, but say we had a 4 terabyte, 4 terabyte memory for people who want records right away, and had that saved with an intern. It would be less, and again, more cost effective possibly than what's going on now where people are pulling paper records for the town. That's just an example, but I wonder if we've really looked into those things for all of the departments, as Mr. Johnson has really actually done a pretty good job of trying to upgrade the tech, if you will. Have we upgraded the tech? Is this something we can do? This would continue to serve us using some of the surplus for a long time, I would think.
We actually have and are continually upgrading. A lot of it is part of the town hall project. Most of our servers and our workstations were replaced at the time of the fire, so they were purchased late 2007, early 2008, way past their useful life, obviously. As part of the move, what we're doing is we've been purchasing the new servers, because we're all out of warranty now as well, purchasing servers, new computers, so they'll be sitting there at the workstation. John will be doing that over the next month. So it'll be set, he'll configure all the stations, have them sitting there, and then when someone shows up, everything will just be set up there. Then the older machines, what we're going to do with them is we're going to wipe them clean, and we're going to use them as a training room in the library area for doing Excel workshops and things like that for the employees. So we'll still keep the older ones, but they'll be used as a training session. So. but we are continually upgrading that stuff.
So you're looking for direction on the operating budget as we've discussed at the last two budget workshops, is that what everything's going?
Well, pretty much, like I said, there's some reductions and some increases. I think the net is actually less, but in general terms, is council happy with what's been put together so far? Are we ready to introduce a budget?
Well, I'd like to see where it is exactly, but I mean, I'm fine with the, with what was proposed. I would like to see exactly what we're talking about with these minor changes, but.
Okay, well, why don't we do this then? Why don't we present something to council between now and the next meeting? Discuss it at the next meeting, and then the meeting after that, shoot for introduction.
That's fine.
That sounds reasonable.
So that would be the, in May?
Yeah, already.
Because we're looking at $165,000 for the capital budget, right? That's what we're looking for
Correct.
as a bond down payment.
Correct.
And we budgeted $100,000.
Right.
So we're 65 over, we're going to come in with
$97,000
$97,000 with our
savings, okay.
savings first. And not that I just want to, I mean, we have to be careful that we got more money in, now we're going to go spend it again.
Yeah,
I want to make sure that we're
Right,
doing what we need to do.
right.
Well, none of the capital projects we discussed tonight are projects that council has to go forward with. I mean,
Okay.
If council wants to keep a hard line at that $100,000 for the down payment, I can adjust the capital request.
Well, we could still fund it but not use the money, correct?
That is correct as well.
So if we chose to fund those, just to put that money in the budget, if we decided.
You'd have an option.
Right, because I don't know if I'll have information on those between now and the first meeting in May.
Right.
We're gonna know, if we're gonna be greenlighting any of those projects.
Okay. Good with that.
That, your timeline's fine, Scott.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty, then we'll move on to, discussion items regarding schedule matters, the agenda, or any amendments to the agenda.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to table ordinance 1-2014. That, we just sort of, that's just popped on our radar this week, and I don't think the rec advisory committee's even weighed in on it.
No, we have not.
So I would like to make suggestions to postpone the discussion on that for, until they get a chance to review it.
Yeah, I likewise have questions I've not been able to get answered from Friday, not that it's being withheld from me, but I've been able to get answered about that ordinance, so, I'm not ready to move forward on it. Anyone else?
You guys aren't comfortable, fine.
Right?
Motion to table, is a motion to table, more discussion.
Okay. Phil's got the motion, anyone want a second?
Second.
Aaron, what was
Patty, I mean,
it? Yeah. I'll call her by the little name.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Napolitano?
yes.
Mrs. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Kiakio?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Phil. Any other scheduling items, changes to the amendment, excuse me, to the agenda? Okay, then we'll move to reports from members of council. I will start with Deputy Mayor Jordan.
All right, just wanted to say congratulations again to the Garden Club on their 60th Golden Jubilee, Silver Jubilee, I'm not really sure.
It was a jubilee.
But it was a really nice event last Saturday night. Beautiful flower arrangements, floral arrangements. Garden Club does such a nice job of keeping our town looking nice, helping to keep Main Street, the flowers on Main Street nice, and just want to say congratulations to them for their 60 years. One thing I was excited to see, we got an email from Tom Rochelle that we are now ready and in position to have, as of April 1st, online bill payments for water and water and sewer, not our taxes.
Well, you can pay for all.
You can pay for all of them online. So I just thought that was a great thing. I know we've worked with council very hard to,
If you want, I can.
yeah, I would do that, yeah.
Sure, April 1st, there will be an announcement on the website going out about this. But basically, we'll be able to pay water taxes, water and sewer utility bills online. People will be able to go on, view their accounts. If you want to, you can go on and pay. You can either pay by e-check, which is the cheaper method, or you can pay by credit card. There's fees associated, I think it's 2.95% for the credit card. It's much cheaper to go with the e-check. But either way, now you will not be able to pay that way at the counter at the office. This is the convenience for online. But you can always look up your account, check the balance. The other thing that Mr. Jordan was talking about is we're actually be able to receive your water and sewer utility bills online. So you can actually go on, register, and then you'll get that email to when the cycles are billed. Instead of getting the postcard, you'll actually get an email, but you'll have to go on and register for that, tell them which account and all that. You cannot do that for taxes, because taxes is still the old-fashioned way. And we wait for the rate to be
We'll eventually
struck.
get there, maybe. But I wanted to say, I just thought that was great that we're moving forward with that, and we're getting into the new technology with our team feed. So Tori with her committee doing that. But I wanted to thank you, Tom. I know you didn't give yourself any credit. I know you worked with this with John Polkowitz and also with Jennifer, our new tax collector. So I just wanted to thank them publicly, and this is, I think, really something great and new for our town.
Great. Victoria.
Well, let me echo Stacy and Tom, really well done. I think this is a really important move for our town. I mean, just the convenience that we can give to our residents that way is really important. Other than that, at the most recent Open Space Committee meeting, the committee discussed exploring whether or not the county would be interested in helping us to preserve Flying Feather Farm. There are some conditions that may make it ineligible, but it's still worth pursuing that because they can obviously help us to do that, which would be kind of win-win.
Right.
Something else that was discussed were some encroachments on Swedes Run Farm, or Swedes Run, the open space there, and I believe the residents have already been notified. They've been given some time to
Sheds?
Sheds and orchard, a trampoline, things like that, just mowed lawns in general, and a fort. And that was the one thing I wanted to bring up, because it's not really, no, there is, because it's about 20 feet up in the trees.
Oh,
That's a huge liability.
That's a real fort.
So, and that one really isn't clear whose it is, and really it's a risk. And Scott, I was wondering if we had any update on that.
I did, after your last open space meeting, talked to both Ken and Pete Clifford on that. Kenny, as you pointed out, has notified them in writing before. Pete's going to follow up with something else in writing that will explain what the financial penalty is for non-compliance.
Okay. But
You probably already had it, but I'll double check.
okay, with the fort in particular, obviously, Public Works is still a little tight with
Right.
weather, but I feel like that's something we want to take care of.
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Greg.
Well, I was able to attend last Saturday the 21st annual Morristown Youth Baseball Federation Pancake Breakfast. Our generation of baseball guys started 21 years ago. It's still going strong, and it was a wonderful thing because actually what we started for, one of the things was to have all the baseball guys get together and separate the teams and kind of shake everybody's hand before they went out and tried to shoot each other and get their compete with each other during their season. It was a great time, and I really loved it. I talked to Don Gannon, who is the president now, and it's working really well. And it's great to see baseball moving ahead with still 800 people, and we had 800, they have 800 this year, even with the competition of lacrosse. Great thing. The Appearance Committee considered a lot of other things besides decorations, including signs at their meeting. And I also noticed that the sign is up at Town Hall, which is pretty cool. You can look and see a very good-looking, I think, sign. On the water, I actually had a specific request from a citizen, Chris Spurgel, who asked me to look into that, and I asked Tom to look into that about 6 months ago. And I was able to report to her that we had action. That was great. And that's all I have.
Action on what?
Action.
On what?
the water and sewer reports. The water and sewer reports online.
Thank you, Greg. Bill?
Nothing to report.
Well, how's your leg?
He's driving again.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The Rec Advisory Committee meeting, and we discussed our agenda for 2014. So that's moving along, and I'm looking forward to some of the projects that they want to do. And I think that is it as far as I was there. It was a nice time. That is all. So moving to scheduling items. Does anybody have any scheduling items we discussed? Jim, okay. Then moving to upcoming meetings. April 7th, 2014, 7:30 p.m. is an official action meeting here, followed by the next meeting of April 28th, 2014, 7:30 p.m., another official action meeting here in the Morristown High School IT room. Do we have any agenda updates? If not, I will accept a motion to adopt a resolution approving the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions or nays? We will have no presentations and proclamations, and that will move us to the resident request and presentation part of the meeting. If you'd like to come down to the microphone, state your name and your address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, I'm actually, this is a little out of the ordinary, but I'm going to make a request that a particular resident in the audience come down, either Dave or Debbie, I guess Dave. I think I've talked to most of you about this, and I know it's an issue that's been going on for some time, but just to provide some background and context while they make their way to the microphone. The Browning Hess Farm, way back when the state in its infinite wisdom was going to build a highway through Morristown, lost some property, and the highway obviously never happened. The township became owners of that property.
Right.
And Dave and Debbie have expressed interest going back to the Jack Terry days and reacquiring some of that property. I had received a letter about 2 weeks ago from their attorney that I was going to forward to council. I guess restarting the conversation of their interest in acquiring the property. Unfortunately, that very same week, there was a court ruling on COA, and I asked for an opinion on this situation from Tom Ford and Brian Slaw, who's our COA planner. And at the time, their concern was that and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with COA, but that we may need some of this property to deal with whatever happens with COA down the road. Subsequent to, I shared that with Dave and Debbie, and subsequent to that, Dave came and talked to Tom again, and because I guess going back before my time here, there were 3 different options that were discussed. The first one being the smallest amount of property, but would allow the property to be squared off. The third one being all of the property. And considering the COA situation, I believe what we want to discuss tonight, and this does have the endorsement of both Tom Ford and Brian Slough, is option 1, which is squaring off the property. It's roughly 10, 11 acres. 10.8 now, close. So I asked Dave and Debbie to speak to council tonight. Want to begin the conversation. Unfortunately, this is a conversation I believe that the Hesses would like to move quickly. And if council does show some interest in this tonight, I'll work with Mr. Dralis in the coming days with the Hesses and their attorney to figure out how this moves forward.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Carew. David Hesse, 34 North Linola Road. We have had a long-standing interest in reacquiring the ground that was contiguous to our farm. It goes back in 2011, in February. We had another letter that we had sent to the council at that time. And as a result of that, Mr. Scholes, who was the township manager at the time, got Jim Rudderman of Alimo to meet with us. And that's where we crystallized, if you will, our interest in the 3 basic concepts. The first one of squaring off the farm at the 10.8 acres is really also squaring off the bottom line of what is really wetlands. And it's been important to our farm to make sure that those wetlands remain as they are, and that for farming, that we have good drainage. So we not only want to regain the property that was part of the farm at one time, but we want to protect our farm going forward. And now that we've done farmland preservation, allowing that to remain as it is, and for us to be the stewards of that ground is our preference, and would be our preference for generations to come. And we're very okay with it being deed restricted like the rest of our farmland preservation. That would be just fine with us, but we just want to move forward. And yes, we do have a sense of urgency that we'd like to move. It's been a long time of dialogue, and we would prefer to move quicker if we could. And that's why we agreed when Scott came back. We said, sure, we'll stand up and talk. Anything we can do to move this.
Scott, what is the approximate value of that property?
Well, I guess it depends on how you appraise it. Being that it is landlocked, being that there is wetlands, I don't know that the property value is going to be that high per acre.
It's near the sewer plant.
It's right. So on the other side, the property opposite the Hess farm is the creek, and I guess north abuts your property, south it abuts the sewer treatment plant. So there's really not, my understanding in most recent history, the only idea that the town had for use of that land, besides issues with COA, was a solar farm, which, and Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we are looking at other possible sites for that. That's not really the only site for solar.
I believe it's 8 other sites.
Right.
And that's on wetlands, and most of it's wetlands, is
Right.
that correct?
Right, EDAC, if Stacy wants to discuss, I know EDAC's discussed this as well.
EDAC was concerned about giving up the property, and selling the property and not having, the available property for any concerns between us and COA.
Right.
But it seems that, Tom Ford and Brian Slough have really looked into this, and that really wouldn't affect us because it is such wetlands.
Right.
And
Well, it's not left anyway. How are they gonna build a housing development on property that?
Philosophically, if somebody did build somebody a COA property there, how would anybody get to town? There's no bus stop, there's no...
Well, perhaps Tony could answer that better, but I believe it's not necessarily that.
How do they get to their house without going over their farm?
It's not that property it's not that homes would be built on that site. What it does is having that property in our Rossi enables us, Tony, I guess it's to do sort of trade-offs, like 3 acres to 1 or something like that, where we could say we have this land at, Tony,
It helps with that, sure.
right. So yeah, I don't know that there's a concern that people are gonna wanna build, but what they might do, depending on what the next round comes out and say, you have to build X amount of ground and you have to build it on Wesley Bishop, for example. You laugh, but that's actually, I think,
It's a possibility.
the possibility, where we would be able to trade, I think it's 3 or 4 acres to 1, so.
That's not gonna have a major impact on our COA.
But I could tell council with most assuredness that Brian Slough, A, understands the COA situation as well as anyone, and B, is as conservative and concerned about that situation. So for him to endorse what I'll call option A, which is squaring off the 10.8 acres, I think that should ease EDAC's concern.
Other than obviously helping a long-standing resident in our community, I mean, and it's not a significant part of our COA plan, and why would the township even want it? We have liability issues as a piece of property, and what are we going to do in the maintenance issue? What are we gonna do with it?
I believe they've been maintaining it all along anyway, so.
Oh, thanks.
We actually rent 2 of the acres by the township and have continued to farm.
Plus, you've committed to be stewards of this property, which is right beside the stream.
Right?
I have no problem
Yeah.
with this. I mean, especially when our professionals give us the,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Victoria?
We absolutely should. You know, I've talked to the Hesses about this before, and honestly, I personally think it's kind of a crime. They lost that land to begin with, and, you know, I think it's the right thing to do. It really doesn't benefit the town to keep that land, so I think we should vote.
Looks like you're a proud owner of 10.8 acres of wetlands. Congratulations.
Well, not yet.
Well, we still have.
One fight.
Right, I think what he didn't say was 50,000 an acre.
Yeah.
No, but what we'll do, Mr. Mayor, if it's council's wish, Mr. Draws and I will work with the Hesses and their attorney quickly to figure out how to make this happen.
Fast track it, because they haven't set a deadline.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Stand
your
at
stewardship.
Home Depot, Dave.
Thank you. You're about to make another dream come true. Thank you.
Very cool. Okay. And I guess we can move on to, oh, I'm sorry. We are, we're still on resident. Sorry, Nancy.
Good evening, Nancy Newcomer, 235 Fellowship Road.
Good evening.
I'm getting cool tonight.
You have to say that.
I have an invitation for you and a question for you. Let me give you the invitation first. The Morristown Improvement Association, I think some of you heard about this, is having their annual meeting this Thursday night at 7 o'clock at Community House. You're all invited. The topic is heritage and honey. There will be tastings of various honeys. Lou Naylor, who's a local beekeeper, will be one of the presenters, and the state apiarist, I think that's a word, will also be speaking. Also, I believe Ed Armstead, who has been president of that organization for only about 25 years, is stepping down and is going to be honored at that evening. So I hope you all can join us. No reservations required. Okay, so the second thing I want to ask you about has to do, you may not have the answer tonight, and I understand that. I believe sometime over the past year, the skate park, which was in memory of David Gentili, was demolished for safety reasons. And I wanted to ask if there's a group, what group is charged with planning an appropriate new memorial for David Gentili? And what, do we have a timeline for a report back on that?
I can actually answer that now, Nancy. The rec department, Teresa Miller, and the Recreation Advisory Committee are tasked with that. I can tell you that there's an excellent idea that they are researching and investigating right now. I don't want to say what it is just yet. They are working with Sandy McGuire, who was a former neighbor of the Gentilis, and who really has been working hard. And you know, Sandy, that she can be very persistent in terms of making sure that the township maintains something of importance in David's name. So, Chris, I don't know if RAC has
No, we haven't.
made their decision yet, but I know there's an excellent idea on the table.
Yeah, that's part of our agenda for 2014 is to decide what to do with the site, and that's one of the areas that's been identified as a priority to figure out what if anything to do. Whether something's built there at the former site or whether something's built at another park has to be discussed.
When you were talking about budget tonight, I didn't hear anything about it, but then again, it seems to take a long time sometimes for projects to come to fruition, like the holiday decorations. So, it could take more than a couple of months.
Yep.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. That's encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Sir?
Room 123 Augusta Drive. Do we have a copy of the contract yet for sanitation? Has it been signed?
Mr. Dralis has been working on that. I know he,
No, we don't have a sign.
Will the contractor be starting without a signed contract?
No,
So it'll be done before, what, April 1st?
that's the expectation.
Is there any outstanding issue that is not resolved?
No.
Just it seems surprising that you wouldn't have a contract, and yet you already had them here discussing how they're going to begin implementation, but yet there's not even a signed contract.
Well, when you're trying to make an issue, Bob, you're trying to make a problem, that's something you would say. The form of the contract is something that's dictated by the specifications that were already bid and the contractor's proposal that came back. The contract itself is really a formality. So there's no, you're trying to make an issue, but there isn't.
No, it's not trying to make an issue. It's normally you have a signed contract before you start the process.
Anything else, Bob?
I guess, Mr. Dralis, how much have you charged this year so far?
I haven't looked.
I submitted a over request and haven't received a response to it.
Okay.
So is there any expectation when I will receive the answer to that?
It may be in already.
Yeah, we'll check with Patty, we certainly.
Well, it's not in yet, check.
Why is that an issue for you, Bob? You think I charge too much?
I think it's fair for the public to look to see what you're charging as well as all the conflict attorneys.
That's
Such as the attorneys that the town always has to hire based on all your conflicts with the Morristown Law,
There you go, Bob.
with Burlington
There
County.
you go, exactly. It's not just a
Mr.
question
Rose.
about what the amount of the bill is. You come with an agenda, and you come to attack. So that's my response.
It's interesting how you get involved in running the meeting when there's a mayor here that's supposed to be running the meeting.
Anything else?
We charging extra to run the meeting?
Anything else?
Oh, yes, lots of stuff, sir. Will you be running the rest of the meeting, or will the mayor be stepping in tomorrow?
We're all civil adults here, just.
I thought we were civil until Mr. Drolis decided to exercise his political opportunities towards
Anything
me.
else? We're going to the next point.
Yes. Will the next council meeting, when will the town employees be moving into town hall, in town hall?
in May.
In May, will the first meeting, will the May council meeting be televised?
Rick, Rob, you guys,
I don't know, are we wired for that? I mean, have we formally discussed that yet? I'll tell you right now. Okay, go.
Couple things, because I've heard this issue come up. First of all, the channel that this would be televised on, we're not set up for that yet. The room itself is set up for taping, for audio, visual, all that kind of good stuff. The issue is that we negotiated with Comcast at the last renewal. I think it was, I don't know if it was, say around 2010 when the contract was finally overtaken. But this is the first time that we're asking them to isolate the channel, because obviously if you go to, is it channel 2 or 19, I'm not sure what the local channel is. Right now you see Lenape is being broadcast on there. 19, okay. That's because it's a channel that back when it was Garden State, now Comcast, has set aside as the EG, Education Government Channel, for the town. Up to this point, the town has not accepted that, and they allow Lenape to run their programming on it. And in that last negotiations with Comcast, we negotiated for them to split off and isolate the channel. It's a capital project for them that they actually are going to undertake in 2014. One of the things that we've been working with the T&T committee with, and councils have been working on stuff, is what happens when we take that over. Obviously, we don't just want dead air, so that's what we're working on right now. So right now, we don't have access to that channel because Lenape has that, but after they isolate it, then we'll be able to broadcast on it. But we are set up for that, for the channel, so hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, and Tom, you don't have to go back up for this. I mean, we also, no, I said you don't have to get back up. Just a yes or no. I mean, we one of the intentions was that we would also be able to post them on our website.
Right. Correct.
Will that be done in the interim?
Yes. Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, when we open the building, it'll be ready to perform all that.
That was, I think, Mr. Gorman, just so you know, that was the initiative of this council that we wanted to do that, make sure that happened, to have the videotaping of our meetings to make it transparent and open.
Right.
To be on TV, and
No, we didn't know what was happening with the TV channel, so when this council took the initiative on, we said it will be on our website
And
until it gets, and then.
it's a great first step, and obviously a lot more people will watch TV than it's a great first step.
Until we get the channel, we can't do anything, but we're working on it.
It will be pretty automatic too. We won't have another responsibility for Patty other than turning on a couple of switches, I imagine.
Yeah.
How many new spots at the new town hall site are allocated to the library parking plot plan?
Roughly 200 sites other than that. Total, which is 50 more than we had before.
No, there's 152 sites on the parking spaces on the site. The parking demand for the library during the day is about 75 cars with people coming in and out. At night, worst case scenario is about 100. Worst case scenario, meetings and library will take most of the lot. So we're pretty much planned for that capability.
But there is no specified library parking, town hall parking?
No, there's absolutely not. It's all one shared lot.
So if it was decided to use that site for something else, if you privatized it or sold it and the building wanted to go there, there'd be no spots with it.
As part of the study we're doing now to determine what makes the most sense with regard to any further use of that site. In addition, that was one of the comments I made about the police activity. There wouldn't be room for all of the things that they store on their site. And Mr. Newcomer also indicated the question of traffic impact with regard to 2nd Street and so forth. So it's all part of looking at the site. Different uses have different peak hour demands. Certain things would have no use in the morning and perhaps later at night, and vice versa. So that's what part of the study we're doing now.
Is the 150 sites just for the recreation town hall, and then 50? Is there more sites for the town hall library, and is there sites specific for the recreation? What's the total amount of parking places on the entire site?
I'm thinking, my recollection was the 152, but you may be right, maybe 252.
I think it's 200. 250. It was 150 before, I think it is.
Well, there's the 35 spaces directly adjacent to the new spaces, adjacent to the rec building, plus the spaces in front. And then there's all the spaces in front of the library and around to the side of the library.
Which is a great option.
I can give you that.
Okay.
It is my understanding that Morristown presently has 2 acting directors. Could you tell me when their leaves of absence from the permanent positions expire?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Mr. Brown.
It is my understanding that Morristown presently has 2 people serving in acting director capacities. In order to be an acting director, you need to take a leave of absence from your permanent position. When would those leaves of absences expire?
I'll have to get back to the answer. I do not know that off the top of my head.
You'll email me?
Sure.
Thanks. Last year, we had projections for advertising on municipal fields relative to revenues. Have we met those projections?
We did in 2013. 2014, the process has begun. There's still a component to the project that Ms. Miller is working with Scott Taylor, professional on, which is the field naming rights component, which we hope to incorporate this year.
Thank you. Any update on the Memorial Park sign?
In terms of what?
Finishing it?
It is finished.
You're not going to match the bricks to look like one consistent wall?
Well, you replace brick, that's what happens, but over time it'll wear and match. I think it looks fine.
Does other members of council think it looks fine?
Victoria, you think it looks fine?
I think it looks as good as could be expected. We would have had to take down the entire wall and
Okay, he's
replace
asking
it,
a question.
which would have been
Stacey?
an unnecessary expense. Yeah, I agree with Victoria. I mean, if you look at, what is the apartment complex or townhouse complex on Martyr and Main there, where they had, I think, car or tree.
Warfield?
Yeah, Warfield. Part of the, I think it was a fire, part of the brick was taken down. there's a difference there. They tried to match it as best they could. It's like you said, to match it exactly, you have to take the whole entire wall down. I think that would be an expense that's not responsible.
Phil?
I agree with you guys, it looks fine.
Greg?
I think it does not look fine. I think, and I've expressed this to council on several occasions, and actually showed a couple pictures. I think that the contrast of the letters in black
Are we talking
against
about letters, or are we talking about brick?
Look at the wall right now, right?
the
The wall or the letters, Mr.
The letters are the wall part of it.
The wall.
The letters are a part of it. It's a whole sign to me, as well as the brick.
Remember, I did speak to the NBA on Wednesday.
The brick are not a typical of any sign I have ever seen, as a matter of fact. Always there are either light letters and a dark background, or dark letters and a light background in any sign anyone sees. And the letters should be made white. And I have talked to council numerous times, and actually I asked Scott first, and I went to the person I understand who was supplied the letters, and I asked to meet with them, and they told me they were going to get back to me, and they did not get back to me. So, in my opinion, and I will qualify that I did serve 5 years on the appearance committee in which we overviewed signs. It is not done, and it should be done, and it should be part of the claim that the white letters should be made done. As far as the brick, I think it's probably going to wear off, as you said, eventually, but it probably could be power washed. The old brick could be power washed to match. That might be something that we could ask to be done.
Okay. Greg, I do agree with you in part with the sign itself, the lettering. The one time when you asked me about it, I had gone by and it looked fine, but I guess it was the way the sun was hitting it. And then when I came back another time, it was different, it was hard to see. So that might be something we want to look into, is just seeing if there's a way to change the letters. But as Mr. Gorman was asking about the brick itself, I think, like you said, and like everyone else has said, it's very difficult to match brick, and I think they did the best they could.
And if I could say one more thing about that, if you view the sign after 3 o'clock, when the sun has gone beyond where the brick wall is, in other words, going further in the west, you will see that it just kind of starts to blend, and it starts to, that's because the contrast isn't there. And thank you for reminding me of that, Stacey.
Well, I know I, for one, have had car accidents and had to have the car repainted, and the insurance company didn't just paint one section of the car, they repainted the entire car. And being that this was an insurance claim from somebody running into it, was an insurance adjuster involved from representing the township?
Yes.
Who was that?
Who was that?
Yes.
It was from our joint insurance fund.
And they accepted this claim?
Yes.
In being the appearance committee gets involved in things like this, is this something that the appearance committee could look at to see if it meets the standards?
They haven't been charged with that, and I'm not inclined to charge them with it. I think it looks fine. The letters are 10 inches, at least 10 inches high, and I think I don't have a problem seeing them, and the park's not open at night, so seeing them at night, I don't know if it's much of an issue. So I'm personally not inclined with charging the appearance committee with the memorial, because as far as I'm concerned, the case is closed.
I would like to also point out that I have asked that the appearance committee be consulted on this, as they are the sign people for everything else in the town. They passed on, for instance, on Town Hall and other signs that were actually in parks. It is the correct, in my mind, personally, the thing to do. So I would think it'd be better for us to.
Would any other members of council be willing to let it go to the appearance committee?
I don't think it needs to go to appearance committee.
It doesn't seem to be a priority,
I think we can maybe ask Scott to find out through Ken what needs to be done to make the letters a little bit pop out a little bit more. But I don't mean, were they gonna tell you to change the letter?
I like them black.
Letter size, if the letter size is letter size.
Yeah, I think
I
we're well on track. I appreciate you're here to give your opinion. I appreciate it. It's noted, but I'm not inclined to do a thing about it.
No. I request that you reconsider it and talk about it at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Yeah.
Thank you for indulging me one more time. Nancy Newcomer, 235 Fellowship Road. I would just like to remind the council that we hold our annual Memorial Day celebration at that field, and it is a source of pride to our town. I go by that wall practically every day, but more importantly, our memorial observance on Memorial Day is important, and it is not putting our best foot forward to have that wall looking that way. I don't think it's out of line to ask Public Works to consider power washing the wall so that we have a wall that looks consistent. So I respectfully request you to consider that. If you will not consider the lettering change, I respectfully request that you look into cleaning the wall so that we can put our best foot forward on Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll do exactly that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Evening, Council. How are you?
Well,
Jack Lance, 302 East Main Street. Mayor, for you, I have a question. I don't know if you're familiar 100% with Fullerton Park, Roselli Ave. I'm sure you are.
yes, I am.
It goes down, and there's a nice park that we just redid a few years ago, and tennis courts. The basketball court was taken out, and I know you're part of that committee.
Right.
I'm still trying to learn myself why it was taken out. I understand there were some issues there.
Yep.
But I was hoping maybe you could enlighten me a little bit on it.
It just became old. And
Well,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, because, I'm sorry, yeah, but the decision to do that was before Chris was on the recreation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
And I can answer the question. There was always problems with the tennis court and basketball courts there in terms of sinkholes. And this happens a lot when, when parks are built inside of a community and the builder just, leaves debris out, it gets buried, and over the course of a long period of time, everything disintegrates and, the sinkholes occur. And Public Works was constantly trying to fix sinkholes that were just becoming larger and larger to the point where it just became, in our opinion, the smartest thing to do just to get rid of it.
Cost effective, maybe.
Cost effective and safe.
I reported to the council 2008, 2009, several times about that park to be redone, and there was a portion of it that was nearer to where the recreation park is that was built that was so bad it was sinking 3 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is just growing up in that neighborhood, I wasn't curious, and I just want to make it known that I'd like to maybe assist, or maybe we could do something, bring the basketball court back. I don't know what we think. I'm sure going to the committee.
I mean, I don't want to pass rock. Isn't that the, I know I go to the kids all the time. Is it that we can't put on a basketball court there, or just isn't the funds to do it, to build it correctly?
Well, what we've had funds for in the past, and Tom or Greg, they're obviously their history with this court goes back a lot longer than mine.
Right.
But in my short time with the township, there was just something going on underneath that court that the only way to properly fix the court would be to take it out, fix whatever's happening underneath that court, and then redo the entire court. Mm-hmm. And that was an expense that the Recreation Advisory Committee, I guess, did not feel.
I'll bring it up for the next round.
Yeah, and maybe I can join you and assist somehow in the way to bring it back.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that at all. I was going to bring up the next round committee through there. You can also, bring up as well. Well, I'll find out what the, I'm not offended by the idea.
Yeah, I just like to play basketball down there. I mean, you got tennis, the court, the playground, baseball. It's all in one shot right there, so it's nice.
I agree. No, I agree. I was going to bring it up, and that's how ideas are born.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? All right, so no further residents, we will close that portion and move to ordinance on second reading. We don't have any ordinances for second reading. How about ordinances on first reading, which was tabled? So do we do anything there, or just skip it over?
Skip right over it.
Okay. And we'll move on to consent agenda resolutions. Mr. Crew, if you would read them.
I had 2 questions on them when we go through each one.
Okay. we'll have Scott read them, and then we'll get your questions right for sure. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, the first is 83-2014, awarding a professional services contract to Princeton Hydro LLC in the amount of $20,125. 84-2014, authorizing a one-year extension of a contract to Woolston Company, Inc. for the removal, transportation, and disposal of wastewater sludge. 85-2014, authorizing the tax collector to refund tax overpayments. 86-2014, a resolution amending and supplementing the 2014 temporary budget. 87-2014, authorizing change order number 1 to contract with Millennium Communications Group, Inc. in the total amount of $20,407.65 to provide for additional security cameras at the North Church Street Recreation Center. 88-2014, authorizing the execution of a service contract under state contract with Anchor Relocations in the amount of $82,860 to relocate the library and town hall offices, furniture, and equipment to the new town hall library building. 89-2014, authorizing the cancellation of certain water and sewer charges. 90-2014, authorizing the Township of Morristown to execute an agreement with Burlington County for cooperative participation in the Community Development Act of 1974. And 91-2014, authorizing contract change order number 7 for the new Town Hall Library project in the amount of $29,766.96.
Okay, and I guess we have Rick and Mr. Notley here to discuss the change orders. Do you want to do that before Philip?
I mean, it's not a long list of
maybe you guys can just explain the change orders, the need for them, what's involved, so we can give the public some information about that.
If I could also indulge council and the members of the public, I feel a little bit like the Grim Reaper, because every time I come up here, it's just to talk about change orders, which is kind of the dark side of the business. On the positive side, I just wanted to update council a bit on the progress with the building. We have had permanent power on since February. Contractors completed about 90% of the finished painting inside the building. The exterior trim work, the fascia, soffits, and coping is finally complete, much to our relief. It's a very intricate system with a lot of components. It took a long time to fabricate that material and install it, but now that it's in there, I think it really does look great.
So the cornice work?
Cornice, fascia, soffit. Flooring is moving along well in the building. The vinyl composite tile or VCT on the second floor is pretty much complete, and we're underway with VCT work on the first floor. Ceramic tile installation is complete throughout all the toilet rooms in the building. The terrazzo flooring, which is a poured epoxy flooring, has begun under the rotunda area. And carpet tile is going to be the last part of the flooring that the contractor is going to do. At this point, all the carpet tile is stockpiled in the building. We just haven't had the contractor install any of that yet. The millwork throughout the building is complete, with the exception of the town council, although the dais, as Scott and I walked through today, the dais millwork is pretty much complete at this point. That part of the building is really coming along nicely. Ceiling grid is complete throughout the building. Ceiling tiles have been installed throughout the second floor. The solar panels are installed. Plumbing fixtures are in place throughout the building. The HVAC equipment, with the exception of one of the rooftop units, RTU2, have been started up. RTU2 will be started up this week. We're just installing a variable frequency drive onto that rooftop unit. The boilers have been started, and the contractor is in the process of bleeding air out of the system at this point. But that means we can begin testing, adjusting, and balancing of the HVAC system. Contractors started on the air side. When all of the air is bled out of the water side, the hydronic side, then they'll move on to hydronic balancing throughout the building. Fire pump was tested and inspected and passed this past week. Sprinkler pipe is currently under pressure. It's being pressure tested right now, and fire alarm testing is scheduled for later this week. The emergency generator is going to be tested this week. High-density shelving units have been installed. The elevator has been installed. We're awaiting a New Jersey State inspection on the elevator. Site lighting will be installed in the next 2 weeks. Site work is really the main schedule concern at this point. Obviously, we've gone through a very difficult winter. One of the somewhat historic proportions in terms of the number of snow events and the amount of snowfall. We're really hoping that over the next 4 weeks we get plenty of dry days, because that's what the contractor's really going to need in order to complete paving around the site. That's the main concern, I think, from a construction management standpoint at this point, from a schedule standpoint. As of the end of February, contractors built the project 86%. We're going to get a pencil copy payment application in the next 2 days. I'm expecting we'll be at about 93% build out from the contractor at that point. And moving contracts are on the agenda for tonight. Hopefully with that, we can go through the process of getting a TCO, and then most of the month of May is going to be consumed in moving first town hall, then the library. We've got furniture contracts in place. There's a lot of back and forth that's going to be taking place during the month of May. But our expectation is that the town hall side will be open for business sometime around the 2nd or 3rd week of May. Library early in June. With that, I apologize for the lengthiness of that, but I did just want to update public and the council.
That's good information. Thank you.
The change order is a total of $29,766.96. There's 5 components to that change order. The first was CCR 38A. This is an add of $18,605.91. This was to fire rate the ceilings in stair tower number 2 and corridor A104. Back when Sandy originally applied for a construction permit, one of the comments from the building subcode official was that these 2 areas would require fire-rated ceilings. In order to achieve this, a double layer of fire-rated sheetrock was added to the ceilings above these spaces. It's about 240 4x8 pieces of sheetrock. The contractor had given us a lump sum proposal for that of $21,130. We felt that that was a little bit excessive, that if we directed the contractor to proceed on a time and material basis rather than a lump sum basis, that the cost would come in less. As it is, it did come in about $3,000 less. I'm sorry, $2,524 less than the original estimate.
And that's a required expenditure?
Yes, sir.
It's a code requirement.
It's a code requirement.
An interpretation issue, I might add.
Yeah.
One of a couple.
Only 5.
The next component of this, well, it is, sir, but you know, the part of the expense of that is with the work taking place in the stair tower, you're required to have a scaffold that's erected, and that scaffold had to be moved a number of times in order to complete the ceiling work throughout the entire stair tower. So a lot of the time involved in that time and materials is taking down and restaging the scaffold. CCR 60 is an add of $532.35. There was a window that was relocated from the end of corridor L201 to the tech services room. The window, when we started laying out roofing, masonry, all of the components, we found that window would actually be partially obscured by the flashing and the insulation in the roof. It wouldn't look right. So that window, since it had already been ordered, was moved into the tech services room. But in order to match the other 2 windows in the tech services room, we needed to ask the contractor to add a roller shade for that. And the cost of that shade plus the installation for it is the $532. The next component of this was an add of $2,381.20. This was to relocate when the building was originally designed as a value engineering measure, we suggested to the architect that The ADA access button will be located on the front face of the building. As we got into construction, we realized that it would be simpler and better from a user standpoint of the building to move that button onto a bollard away from the door. It's easier for elderly patrons or handicapped patrons to access it on a bollard rather than roll up to the side of the building and then roll back to get in. We also added a second button inside the vestibule. Again, what was designed met the ADA requirements, but if the vestibule is used perhaps as a resting area, suppose an elderly or handicapped patron is coming out of the library or town hall and decides to wait in that vestibule for somebody to pull up, and the door's closed, they need a button to get out again. So we added a second button in there.
It's designed to be cost efficient, it's now more user friendly.
Yes. The next item is an add of $6,748.94. This is to add terrazzo treads and tile risers to the main stairway in the town hall entrance of the building. This is a focal architectural feature of the building, and I'm sure Mr. Reagan can probably better explain it, but we asked the contractor, Greyhawk and Reagan Design Group, asked the contractor to give us a proposal to, rather than just have terrazzo treads on those stairs, to have a terrazzo tread and riser that would match the terrazzo flooring that's going in that area. Aesthetically, it's a huge improvement, and also from a maintenance standpoint and I think a long-term durability standpoint. It's going to make the stairs easier to clean and maintain. They're going to look better, and the price is outstanding that we got from the contractor.
He gave us the price at just the material price. He didn't charge us any additional labor. We thought it was a good deal.
The last item is an add of $1,498.56. The movable high-density shelving in Town Hall. When we actually got the shelving on site, we found that the manufacturer of the shelving requires a separate dedicated circuit with a disconnect. So that in order to meet their requirements and maintain the warranty on that, we needed to add a dedicated circuit with a disconnect. So that's the cost of that. As I said, the total for these 5 items, $29,766.96. That's an increase of about 0.27% or 0.25% of the original contract amount. Total change orders to date add up to about 2.28% of the original contract amount. We're still well within the allowance that we had for change orders on the project. With these change orders, we will have used about 45.5% of the contingency that was set up for change orders on the project, and we're more than 90% of the way through construction. So from a change management standpoint, we're in very good shape.
Hey, so in your opinion, that's a good place to be as far as change orders go?
Yes.
2.28%.
Yeah. And there's still, I'm not going to stand here and say that those are the last, because there are some items that we've been negotiating with the contractor for a couple of months now. But
I understand. Okay. I'm going to open up to the public at this time. Any members of the public have any questions regarding this part of the consent agenda? Please come down, state your name, address for the record. Seeing none, we'll close that. Council, comments, questions, or motion to adopt? Right,
yeah, just on the 89-2014, I'm going in reverse, but in the 89-2014, I noticed that there was a sewer due to leaking fixtures, and I wondered if we're giving $765 to a company because they didn't fix their leaking fixtures.
That's a good question.
This has been discussed. Mr. Garwood has brought this up before. The township has a policy that we never adjust water if water is lost, but and we are going to review this policy at the request of Mr. Garwood Council. But the sewer, first quarter, the entire year for the sewer is set by the first quarter water usage. So if there was a major leak during that time, it's registered water. We base the sewer on the water reading. So if they can prove that there was a leak and repaired and things along those lines, we will make an adjustment to the sewer bill. Never the water, because that's metered water. But we'll look at their history, the bills, on bills, and then we'll make an adjustment. That's been a long-standing policy.
I hear what you're saying, this is an existing policy to do this, so that you're following through, but you're going to look into this existing
We
policy
are.
and recommend some other kind of policy. I don't think this company needs that $765.
Well, it has nothing to do, we don't look at the companies or not, it's, we don't pick or choose, it's a policy.
Thank you, Tom. The second one was just about the $29,000 for the sludge transportation service, which is 84-2014. I was just wondering if we bid that, we had 3 bids for that, or if it's biddable, because I didn't see that.
I believe the contract had, this was part of the old contract extension.
Which one?
The 1-year extension for the contract with Wolfton.
It's just an extension then, and it's not biddable or wouldn't be biddable as an extension.
Well, in the bid covers the extension and the terms of the
original
extension. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I actually have a question on that too, just to follow up, which is what's the rationale of going with the extension rather than rebidding?
It's already in place, and the pricing in the industry has not gone down, it's gone up since the original bid.
That seems right.
Okay, anybody else? I'll ask for a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Karen, roll call.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Mr. Napolitano? Yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Kiampio?
Yes. That passes. Moving to minutes, we have two sets, September 9th, 2013, official action and closed session, and September 23rd, 2013, they're in your packets. Mr. Garwood, you should abstain from September 23rd.
And that was my plan, sir.
Yeah, I beat you to it. Comments, questions, or motion to adopt the minutes as printed?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Mr. Garwood?
Yes on 9th, and no abstaining on the 23rd.
Ms. Napolitano? Yes. Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Kiampio?
Yes. Approval of expenditures, there are none. That moves us, Mr. Carew, into new business.
I have none, sir.
I'd like to add something to new business,
Sure.
if I might. I know this is going on place, but I did receive an email from a resident of the Windmere Estates, and he indicated that he'd spoken to several of his neighbors, and that they feel their street is plowed last. You know, and they would like to know, or maybe meet with Mr. Ewers to see if there's a what the rotation is. The street behind them is plowed relatively early in the day or night or whatever, but their street's plowed late, and there's a lot of school buses, et cetera, traveling on that road, and they like it.
What's the road that they're on?
Well, it's Windmere Estates, and I have the email from the resident. I can forward it to you.
Because, and we discussed this a few meetings ago, there is a series of roads set up by Public Works. Green and red routes are first. There are main thoroughfares, they're the main arteries. Once they're done, Public Works goes back into individual developments, communities, neighborhoods, to methodically clear the roads. And the priority list is done based on strictly the use of the road, the traffic amounts on the road. And I've, too, fielded multiple phone calls and emails this year. We apparently have a lot of last roads in town to be plowed. It's just, you know, if it's a cul-de-sac per se, it's going to be done after the roads that are through streets within a development. So, if you afford me that, I will look, see, what the road is and what the situation is.
Okay.
Okay.
The new business question as well.
Sure, go right ahead.
I don't know if this is appropriately new business, but I was asked by a resident, and I did not know the answer in regards to what I found out was a second development in Glen Avenue. I know there is a development or a new project that is a sports project, but I didn't know there was a second project right beside that. I am told on Glen Avenue. There's a project to build a sports-oriented building of some kind. But there's a second project here, I'm told. Is that so?
Flynn?
Glen.
Well, same project. It's the other side of it's Flynn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that went through planning board last year. It's called the Field House.
Right, that's the one, but is there a second
No,
project?
no, it's just that.
Just that one project?
But I believe there's going to be 2 buildings,
Yeah,
2 phases, but it is
Just
one
as long as
project.
it's the same project? Good.
Yep.
Scott, old business?
We went over everything already, and unfortunately, Rick and Rob left before I could compliment them in public, because, Rick and Rob hate the accolades that they receive on the building. I will provide a acknowledgement and of appreciation to Karen for filling in for Patty this evening. Patty is at a conference this week. And one of the things I was going to say about this town hall project, to follow up on what Mr. Notley said earlier, when he was giving council and the public the rundown of where we are. I've been periodically taking pictures, and Karen's been putting them up on the Facebook page. For those that do Facebook, if you haven't yet, please check out the township's Facebook page to see. We have dozens and dozens of pictures showing the progress of the town hall. Some of the pictures really work, like the Township of Morristown letters just went up last week, and it really, it's striking from the front of the town hall. Unfortunately, others, you just have to be there, and I just got to say, and like I said, unfortunately Rick's gone, because he is the architect and this was his plan. When you walk in that library, it's stunning. The large foyer, the chandeliers, the skylights coming in. It's the pictures that we've taken and posted on the Facebook page do not do it justice. And for the most part, the indoor rooms pictures don't do it justice. One more quick thing, and I don't know, I'll check with Joe Galbraith, maybe we can discuss this more at the next meeting, but he was able to get sponsors for all 5 of the trees in the children's library.
Oh, that's great.
So the painting of the murals will all be covered by the sponsors. Greyhawk, the others are private, so I'll leave that whether they want to invest it. But Greyhawk was one of the sponsors, so and that's coming up great. So we're all looking forward to it. No, we were always paying for the muralist on our own. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
What a matter of old business, just want to kind of keep it alive regarding the JIF report from last year. We were going to have a meeting with the JIF and so forth. I don't know where we are. I'm addressing that again, that I had done in regarding several questions, and you had said, Scott, we're going to get a bunch of people together for us to look at that. I just want to kind of keep it on the burner, if you will.
Certainly.
All right, we'll move on to comments from the public regarding items on the agenda. Ma'am.
Nancy Newcomer, 235 Fellowship Road. Question for you, in putting the budget together, is paving and repair of the sidewalks in the municipal lot behind Peter Pan in the upcoming budget?
On the Peter Pan parking lot side?
Isn't that that is considered to be a municipal lot?
Yes. And Deputy Mayor Jordan did remind me during the budget workshop that We really should put some money in for engineering for the Peter Pan Park
I
Fund, which would
think-
include the sidewalk.
I think I heard a promise on that, you know,
Yeah.
somewhere along the line.
Oh, yeah, no, that's something we're definitely addressing, because we think it helps, in addition to needing to be renovated, because it's exactly the same way it's been since I was a kid, we can reconfigure it, get more spots out of it, so it's not even efficient anymore. So it's definitely something that we're gonna address this year.
Right,
Thank you, though.
we do have conceptual plans from Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Obviously, that doesn't get the job done, we would need it engineered, so I will find out from Mr. Ruddiman how much we should budget for engineering that project.
Right.
Just to make things simple for council, I'll find someplace else in what I've listed tonight to deduct that amount, so, yeah, so we keep the amount at the same. Thank you, Dan.
Any other members? See, now, I'll close that portion, I'll go to closing comments by council, starting with Mr. Garwood.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Your input's always welcome and appreciated. Drive safe, and we'll see you next time.
Mr. Newcomer.
Just as Mr. Garwood said, thanks for suiting up and coming out. And hopefully there's no more, I won't even say.
Don't even say it.
Snow more? Victoria.
Thanks for coming out, hopefully just soon.
Again, thanks for coming out. I want to thank Karen for filling in for Patty, and to thank her husband, Dave, for being out there in the audience. It's his birthday tonight, so what a way to celebrate your birthday. Happy birthday.
And I would like to say good night. We run out of closed session, and I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Good night.
How is that?